You begged Allah for it. You cried for it in sujood. You stayed up all night asking Him to make it happen, but He didn't. And now you're sitting in silence, wondering why your dua was ignored. But what you don't realize is, Allah did hear you. He saw the tears. He heard the desperation. And He still said, "No, not this, not now." Why? Because what you wanted wasn't just delayed, it was intercepted by the one who saw something coming that you couldn't, and this is what He was really doing. Lesson 1. Allah saw the betrayal before you ever noticed the smile. You trusted them, and not just casually. You trusted them with the parts of you that nobody else sees, the part of you that's been through things, the part that aches at night but still shows up in the morning, the part that just wanted someone to understand. You were loyal. You stood by them. You defended them when others questioned them. You gave them the benefit of the doubt again and again, and maybe in your mind, you started building a future around them. As a friend, a spouse, a partner in your journey, you told yourself, they wouldn't hurt me. They know me. They care. But behind the kindness, behind the attention, behind the words that seemed so sincere, there was something else growing. A darkness you couldn't see, a jealousy you never imagined, a plan that was unfolding behind your back while you were pouring your heart into theirs. And that's the part that hurts the most. Not that they left, but that they stayed long enough to study you, to learn your softness, to memorize your weaknesses, to gain your trust, and then use it against you. You would have never seen it. Because when your heart is pure, you assume others are too. You don't check for knives, you look for love. That's why it would have destroyed you. Not because you were weak, but because you were sincere. And your sincerity would have tied you to someone who never truly valued it. So Allah stepped in, not with thunder, not with warnings, but with a quiet, silent, painful unraveling. A shift, a crack. A moment that didn't make sense back then, but was full of divine protection. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe the relationship suddenly got cold. Maybe they started acting different. Maybe you even blamed yourself. But what you called confusion was actually intervention. Allah was protecting you from a heartbreak you didn't see coming. He saw their heart. He saw the envy. He saw what they were saying when you weren't around. He saw how far they were willing to go to harm you quietly, and so He didn't let it continue. He ended what you were still trying to hold on to, because sometimes the most dangerous betrayal is not the one that stabs you loudly, but the one that smiles while doing it. You didn't lose them. You were saved, because if they stayed any longer, they would have shattered something in you that takes years to rebuild. Your ability to trust, your ability to love, your ability to feel safe. That's not a loss, that's a divine escape. And if you're still hurting over their absence, just remember, Allah saw what they did in private, and you were too precious to be handed over to someone with a poisonous heart. You asked Allah for love. He answered by removing the one who would have hurt you in ways you couldn't recover from. That's not rejection, that's rahmah, that's protection, that's proof that Allah never left your side, not even for a moment. Lesson 2. What you wanted would have owned you. You were convinced it was right for you. That job, that relationship, that dream. It felt so perfect in your mind, you were already building your future around it. You prayed for it like it was air. You planned around it like it was guaranteed. And somewhere along the way, it stopped being something you wanted and became something you thought you needed to survive. But here's the truth you didn't want to hear at the time. It was starting to own you. It wasn't just a goal anymore. It was becoming your obsession. You woke up thinking about it. You fell asleep hoping for it. You were slowly tying your happiness, your self-worth, even your faith to whether or not you got it. And that's the moment Allah stepped in. Because Allah doesn't let His beloved servants become slaves to something that might destroy them later. You didn't realize it, but your heart was slowly getting chained. Chained to something temporary. Chained to someone whose love was becoming your oxygen. Chained to an outcome you were placing above your trust in Allah. That kind of attachment isn't love. It's worship in disguise. And Allah is too merciful to let you live in that kind of silent self-destruction. Because what starts as excitement can quietly become addiction. What feels like a blessing can become a test that steals your peace every single day. So He did what felt cruel in the moment. He took it away, not to punish you, not to humiliate you, but to detach you. Before you forgot who you are without it. Because you weren't created to revolve around a person. You weren't created to lose your sleep over a position, a title, a future you imagined. You were created to be whole. Even when nothing goes your way, you were created to kneel to only one. And it's not your desires, so Allah broke it. Before it broke you, He removed it, so He could rescue you from a version of yourself that was becoming lost in the chase. You didn't fail. You didn't miss out. You were pulled back from a path that was slowly replacing Allah with something far too small. That's not a delay. That's divine realignment. So if you're still aching for something you thought you needed, just remember, sometimes Allah blocks what you want to give you back what you forgot, yourself. Lesson 3. The trap was wrapped in beauty. It looked beautiful. It looked like a gift, like an answered dua, like everything you ever wanted, finally arriving. You smiled when it came. You thought, this is it. This is from Allah. It looked so peaceful, so right, so perfect. But here's what you didn't see. Not every beautiful thing is safe. Not every opportunity that glows is from light. Some of the most dangerous traps in life don't look like pain. They look like pleasure. They look like love. They look like everything you prayed for until they slowly take everything you are. And that's what was happening to you. You were walking into something that looked like a blessing, but it was hollow on the inside. It was designed to test your attachment, to test your ability to listen, not just with your heart, but with your iman. And deep down you felt something was off. You felt it in the way your peace started slipping. You felt it in the way your focus on Allah began to fade. You felt it in the way you were forcing yourself to stay calm, when everything in your spirit was screaming, this isn't right. But the beauty distracted you. The charm pulled you in. The surface was just too convincing. And that's why Allah stepped in, not to break your heart, but to interrupt your destruction. Because had it gone on longer, you would have gotten too attached, too deep, too blind. You would have kept ignoring the signs. You would have kept calling it a blessing, even as it drained your soul. So Allah didn't wait. He pulled you out, sometimes suddenly, through confusion, through heartbreak, through loss. And yes, it was painful. You questioned everything. You cried, asking, Ya Allah, why would you give me something just to take it away? But now look closer. Was it really a blessing? Or was it a lesson? Wrapped in something beautiful to see if you'd trust Allah when it didn't make sense. Because the trap wasn't in the thing. It was in the way you were losing yourself for it. And Allah loves you far too much to let you trade your soul for something temporary. He'll test you. He'll let you get close enough to see the truth. But He'll protect you before you fall so deep you can't return. You didn't get rejected. You got rescued. Not from them, not from the job, not from the opportunity, but from the version of you that was willing to drown in something just because it sparkled. Some things look like light, but they burn like fire. So if something you loved got taken away, and you still don't understand why, just know this: it wasn't punishment. It was protection, from a trap that was wearing a mask called your dream. Lesson 4. If He gave it, you would have settled too soon. You were ready to call it the one. That relationship, that job, that opportunity, it looked stable, safe, familiar. You were tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of uncertainty. So when it came, you said, "This must be it." But what you didn't see is, it wasn't your final chapter. It was just a resting point on your journey. And Allah knew that if He gave it to you fully, you would have stopped there. You would have settled. You would have built your whole life around something that was only meant to be a small part of your story. You would have lowered your vision just to feel secure. And slowly, without realizing it, you would have shrunk your purpose to fit something far too small for your soul. You would have stayed in the comfort zone. You would have convinced yourself, this is enough. Even though deep inside, something felt incomplete. Because the truth is, you weren't meant to just survive. You were meant to rise. And Allah didn't create you to live a life of emotional compromise. He didn't create you to live in halfway love, halfway peace, halfway light. He created you for excellence, for depth, for a journey that expands you spiritually, emotionally, eternally. But your heart was about to settle for less. Not because you were weak, but because you were tired. And so Allah, in His mercy, did something you didn't ask for. He removed what you were about to build your entire future on. It hurt. It confused you. You thought, but I was ready for this. And maybe you were. But what you were ready for was still smaller than what Allah had planned for you. You were ready for comfort. But Allah was preparing growth. You were ready for the safe option, but Allah was preparing something that would awaken your soul. Because if you got what you wanted, you would have stayed still. You wouldn't have become who you were meant to become. You would have built a life around the minimum when Allah wrote more in your destiny. So He had to shake you. He had to break the illusion. He had to force you to move, to rise, to expand, to trust. That interruption, it wasn't rejection. It was divine mercy disguised as disappointment. Because Allah will never allow you to settle in a space where your soul can't breathe. So the next time something doesn't work out, and you feel like you're losing the only plan you had left, pause, breathe, and remember, what feels like an ending might be Allah pulling you away from the life you were settling for, so He can give you the life you were created for. Lesson 5. He didn't say no. He said, not yet. You're still growing. You thought it was a no. You made the dua. You showed up. You gave it your all. And still nothing happened. So you started asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough? Is Allah upset with me? But what you didn't realize was that Allah didn't say no. He said, not yet. Because what you asked for requires a stronger version of you, a version that's still growing, a version that's still learning to hold things without breaking, a version that's being shaped in silence, away from people's eyes. You see, sometimes Allah doesn't give you what you want right away, not because you're unworthy, but because you're still becoming the one who can carry it. He's preparing your hands. So when the blessing arrives, you don't drop it in fear. You don't sabotage it in insecurity. You don't misuse it because you weren't ready. Right now, you're still in the classroom, and it doesn't feel like growth, because growth rarely does. It feels like waiting. It feels like praying with no answer. It feels like walking forward with no sign. It feels like being unseen, unchosen, uncelebrated. But in that stillness, you're being built. You're being taught patience, so you don't panic under pressure. You're being taught humility, so your success doesn't turn into pride. You're being taught dependence, so when the door opens, you don't forget who held the key. Because here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Getting something too soon is sometimes more dangerous than never getting it at all. If you're not ready, the very thing you begged for can turn into the thing that breaks you. So Allah, in His mercy, withholds it, not to deny you, but to protect you from harming yourself with a gift you're not ready to carry yet. That delay you're in right now, it's divine training. Every quiet moment is shaping you. Every lonely season is sharpening your faith. Every disappointment is preparing your heart to receive something better, something that won't slip through your fingers, because you've grown into the person who can finally hold it. So don't confuse silence with rejection. Don't mistake waiting for being forgotten. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not unloved. You are exactly where you need to be, in the care of a Lord who loves you enough to say, "Not yet, my servant, you're still growing, but what I have for you is worth the wait." Lesson 6. The pain you're feeling now is the proof that he's close. You're in pain, and it's not the kind you can explain in words. It's not a wound anyone can see. It's silent, heavy, quietly unbearable, a deep ache inside your chest that doesn't go away, no matter how much you pray, sleep, distract, or try to move on. You keep asking yourself, where is Allah? Why do I feel so alone? But what you don't know is, this pain you're feeling right now is not proof that he's far. It's proof that he's close, because pain is not always punishment. Sometimes it's purification, sometimes it's protection, and sometimes it's the exact tool Allah uses to pull you back to him in a way comfort never could. When life is smooth, your heart gets distracted. But when life breaks, your soul starts whispering his name again. Do you notice that? When you're happy, your mind wanders. But when you're broken, your forehead touches the ground with sincerity. That one, sujood in pain, is sometimes worth more than 1,000 made in routine. And Allah knows that. He sees how this pain has humbled you, how it's softened your heart, how it's made you more reflective, more grateful, more real. That's not a curse, that's a gift, disguised in discomfort. Because if this pain brought you back to Allah, if it made you cry to him in the last third of the night, if it made you whisper du'as you never said before, then how could it be anything other than rahmah? It doesn't feel good right now. But growth rarely does. And the soul that cries out to its creator in pain is more alive than the one that forgets him in comfort. You might not feel him, but he feels you. Every tear, every whisper, every breath you take, holding on by a thread, he hears it all. And here's the beautiful truth. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "Indeed, Allah is with the brokenhearted." Not just near them, with them. So when you're in pain, you're not abandoned, you're accompanied. And that pain, it's not a sign of being distant from Allah. It's a sign that he's working on your soul directly. He's peeling away the attachments. He's melting the arrogance. He's clearing the path between you and him. So you come back cleaner, deeper, stronger than ever before. So don't let the pain lie to you. You are not forgotten. You are not ignored. You are not unloved. You are in a sacred moment where your heart is being rewritten by the one who created it. And one day, you'll look back at this same pain and say with a trembling smile, "That was the moment Allah held me the closest." Lesson 7. If you had gotten it, you would have missed the one that was truly meant for you. You thought it was meant to be, the way they entered your life, the way you connected, the timing, the conversations, the emotions. It all felt so real, so deep, so divinely written. And in your heart you started to build. You saw a future. You planned. You imagined what life could look like with them. You even thanked Allah for finally sending them. But then, suddenly, painfully, it ended. The calls stopped. The distance grew. The connection you thought was sacred slipped through your fingers. And you were left wondering, why would Allah bring someone into my life only to take them away? But what you didn't realize is that sometimes Allah allows certain people to enter your heart, not to stay, but to teach. They were there to reveal something, to awaken something, to expose a wound, a pattern, a need for healing you never noticed before. You saw them as the destination, but they were just a signpost, pointing you back to yourself and back to Allah. Because here's the truth. If Allah had let you stay with them, you would have stopped searching. You would have settled. You would have tried to build forever with someone who was never meant to carry your soul that far. They were not bad. They were not evil, but they weren't yours. Because what is truly yours, in Allah's qadr, will never leave you confused. It won't require you to beg for reassurance. It won't demand that you prove your worth over and over. It won't pull you away from your Lord. It won't feel like a constant battle with your dignity. And if Allah had given it to you, if He let it continue, you would have missed something far more important. The person who was actually written for you. The one who will honor your softness, not exploit it. The one who will protect your heart, not test it. The one who will be a garment for your soul, not a wound for your heart. But here's the thing. That person is only sent after you stop chasing people who are only lessons. So Allah had to remove them. He had to cut the connection. He had to make it hurt so you wouldn't go back. Because if He didn't, you would have kept holding on. You would have missed the one who was walking toward you. Because your eyes were still locked on the one walking away. You see, what feels like heartbreak was actually divine redirection. It wasn't rejection. It was preservation. It was Allah saying, not this, not them. I have something better, but you need to let go first. And when that better comes, when the right person finally enters your life, you won't have to force it. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to lose your identity to keep it. You'll feel peace. You'll feel clarity. And most of all, you'll feel closer to Allah because of them, not further away. So if you're still grieving the one that didn't stay, just remember, sometimes Allah breaks your heart to save your soul from a lifetime of settling. And sometimes the one who left had to leave, so the one who was truly meant for you could finally arrive. Lesson 8. This was Allah's way of rewriting your whole destiny. You thought it was just a heartbreak, just a missed opportunity, just another door closing in your face. But it wasn't. What you didn't see was that something massive was shifting in the unseen. Not just a plan, not just a relationship, your entire destiny, because Allah doesn't just rearrange the pieces of your life randomly. When He removes something, it's not to leave you empty, it's to rewrite the whole story. You were walking in one direction based on what you wanted, but Allah, in His infinite wisdom, intervened. He saw where that path was taking you. He saw what you were about to become. He saw the long-term consequences of choices you were making out of desperation, emotion, or fear. And He knew that if He didn't break it now, you would have built a life that looked successful on the outside, but would have starved your soul from the inside. So He stepped in, and yes, it was painful. You didn't understand it. You fought it. You cried into your pillow at 2 a.m. saying, "Why, Ya Allah, I was doing everything right." But what you called a detour was really a divine reroute. He had to shake your plans so He could realign you with your purpose, because you weren't just supposed to survive. You were supposed to evolve, to expand, to become something greater than what your limited vision was allowing. You see, sometimes we aim too small. We dream based on what we've seen. But Allah writes based on what we can't even imagine. And that's what was happening here. He was redirecting your path, not to punish you, but to save you from wasting years in a life that wasn't built for your soul. You thought your story was falling apart, but really, it was falling into place. Because now, you're not walking blindly. You're walking through pain that woke you up. You're walking through loss that purified you. You're walking through silence that made you listen to His whispers again. This isn't the end of your story. This is the chapter where it all changes. This is where the old version of you ends, and the real version begins. And maybe the people around you won't see it. Maybe they think you're just going through something temporary, but you know deep down, this wasn't random. This wasn't just another closed door. This was divine surgery. Allah is removing what's been harming you. He's healing what you didn't even know was broken. He's writing something that doesn't just look good, but feels right in your soul. So don't mourn what was taken. Smile for what's being written, because when Allah rewrites your destiny, He doesn't just upgrade your future, He upgrades you. And what's coming will not just make sense of the pain. It will make you grateful for every no that once made you cry. This ... was the beginning of something greater than you ever imagined, and it had to start with a heartbreak. So you'd finally let go of the pen and let Allah write the story. So it didn't happen, not because Allah ignored you, but because He answered in a language you didn't understand yet. He saw the heartbreak you were walking toward. He saw the weight that would have crushed you. And He loved you enough to break your heart now so He could save your soul later. You are not being punished. You're being protected. And when the right door opens, you'll look back at all the times it didn't happen and say, Ya Allah, thank you for not giving me what I wanted. You gave me what I needed. Resilient Ummah. Your heartbreak has a purpose, and your soul is still being written.